Right now, a U.S. aircraft carrier is cutting through open ocean in the Pacific. The crew on deck can see nothing but water in every direction. No enemy ships on the horizon, no incoming aircraft. That's exactly how modern naval combat works. The fights happen hundreds of kilometers away, far beyond what any sailor can see from the deck. The enemy gets hit before they even know an American carrier is in the area. The real power of these floating fortresses has nothing to do with their size or the nuclear reactors keeping them running. It comes down to three specific weapon systems that reach out across vast distances to destroy threats while keeping the carrier completely untouchable. And here's why they've changed naval warfare completely. The primary attack capability of any carrier comes from the fighter jets launching off its flight deck. These aren't Air Force fighters that happen to land on ships. They're purpose-built strike fighters designed to operate hundreds of kilometers from the carrier and hit targets most countries can't even reach with their entire air force. Two aircraft dominate American carrier decks, the F-35C Lightning II and the F/A-18EF Super Hornet. Both can switch from air combat to striking ships or ground targets in the same mission without returning to rearm, but here's where it gets interesting. They do this in completely different ways, and understanding that difference explains why no other Navy can compete. The F-35C is the carrier variant of the Lightning II family. Its stealth design makes it nearly invisible to enemy radar systems. That alone would make it dangerous. But stealth is just the entry point. The F-35C uses sensor fusion. That means it combines data from its radar, infrared cameras, and electronic warfare pods into one complete battlefield picture. Then it broadcasts that picture to every friendly aircraft and ship within range. An enemy pilot may think he's facing one jet, but he's actually being tracked by an entire networked battle group that sees him from 3 different angles before he even turns on his radar. The Super Hornet takes over when stealth isn't needed, but heavy firepower is. This fighter has been the backbone of carrier aviation for over 2 decades, but the Block 3 version flying today isn't remotely similar to the original. It carries upgraded radar that can track dozens of targets simultaneously. It has electronic warfare systems that can jam enemy communications, and it integrates into the same networked combat system as the F-35C. When configured for maximum strike power, the Super Hornet can haul over 8,000 kilograms of weapons and fuel on its external hardpoints. That's more ordnance than most nations load onto strategic bombers. But the real advantage isn't what these fighters carry, it's how far they can deliver it. Carrier strike fighters extend the ship's offensive reach hundreds of kilometers beyond the carrier itself. That means the carrier sits in protected waters while its aircraft penetrate deep into enemy territory. And those aircraft don't just drop bombs. They carry the most lethal anti-ship weapons ever developed, which leads directly to the second system. If you're proud of American engineering like this, write "proud" in the comments. When enemy warships hide behind layered air defense networks along their own coastlines, the US Navy deploys the AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missile. This weapon doesn't get mentioned in news reports, but every adversary Navy knows about it because it solved a problem they thought was unsolvable: how to sink defended warships without losing pilots. The LRASM came from a program that developed long-range cruise missiles for ground targets. Engineers took that proven design and completely reworked it to hunt ships. It entered operational service in 2019 and has been flying on Super Hornets during carrier deployments ever since. What it can do is frankly terrifying if you're on the receiving end. The LRASM strikes targets over 370 kilometers away. That range isn't just impressive, it's strategically critical. Modern warships operate inside protective bubbles of surface-to-air missiles designed to destroy anything that gets within 150 kilometers. The LRASM lets American pilots launch from outside that bubble and turn back toward the carrier while the missile continues hunting on its own. Enemy air defenses never get a shot at the launching aircraft. Here's where the technology gets really advanced. The LRASM doesn't need GPS updates or constant radio contact with the launching aircraft. It operates autonomously using its own sensor package. The missile detects radar emissions from enemy ships as it approaches the target area. Then it switches to imaging infrared sensors that identify specific vessels by their heat signatures. If the enemy fleet shuts down every radar system and goes completely dark, the LRASM keeps hunting using thermal imaging alone. Jamming doesn't work. Cutting GPS signals doesn't work. The missile just keeps coming. The attack profile makes interception nearly impossible. The LRASM flies in a sea-skimming pattern just meters above the ocean surface. Enemy radar systems struggle to separate low-altitude threats from the background clutter of waves and sea spray. By the time defensive systems lock onto the missile, it's already in its final approach with seconds until impact. The warhead carries enough explosive power to punch through reinforced hull plating and detonate deep inside the target ship. One direct hit cripples a destroyer. 2 missiles can send it to the bottom. Offensive firepower means nothing if the carrier itself can't survive an attack. That's the role of the RIM-116 rolling airframe missile. This system serves as the ship's final defensive layer against anti-ship missiles, enemy aircraft, and drones that penetrate the outer defenses. Every U.S. carrier mounts multiple launchers positioned around the deck to engage threats from any direction. Each launcher uses the Mark 49 system and holds 21 missiles in ready-to-fire position. These aren't large missiles. They're compact, extremely fast, and engineered for one specific purpose: intercept incoming threats in the final seconds before they hit the ship. The guidance system is what makes them so effective, and it works in a way most people don't expect. The RIM-116 starts by detecting radio frequency emissions from incoming missiles. Most anti-ship missiles emit radar signals to track their targets. The RIM-116 locks onto those emissions and flies directly toward the source. Then, in the last few seconds before interception, the guidance switches to infrared tracking. That means even if the enemy missile goes silent or uses electronic countermeasures, the interception still happens. There's no escape once the RIM-116 launches. The rolling motion during flight gives this weapon its name and its effectiveness. As the missile flies, it spins continuously around its central axis. This rolling allows it to use a simpler guidance system that's lighter and faster to react than traditional designs. The result is a defensive weapon that can engage multiple simultaneous threats faster than any previous system. The RIM-116 has proven itself in actual combat, not just controlled tests. During recent operations in the Red Sea, Navy ships equipped with this system successfully intercepted enemy drones and cruise missiles in real attack scenarios. The success rate in both training exercises and live combat has remained consistently high. When a Mach 2 anti-ship missile is screaming toward a carrier with 5,000 sailors on board, the RIM-116 is the last thing standing between that threat and catastrophic damage. And it works. These 3 weapon systems create a combat capability no other Navy can replicate. Carrier strike fighters that project offensive power hundreds of kilometers from the ship. Long-range anti-ship missiles that eliminate enemy fleets from outside their defensive perimeter. Close-range interceptors that protect the carrier from anything that breaks through. That's why U.S. carriers operate in contested waters where other nations won't risk their most valuable ships. The combination of long-range attack and layered defense isn't a theory. It has proven capability, operating from the Western Pacific to the Middle East.